Hello, everybody. After a brief interlude and a big technical hitch on my part, we're back here with Freeformers and Friends, our usual live stream that tends to happen at 4 p.m. on the dot every Thursday. It's 11 minutes past. We went live at 4. My headphones weren't working. We reset everything and it still didn't work. And now I found out what the technical issue was. I'm not going to tell you or bore you with the details of that, but I think it's safe to say that after what has probably been the most panic-ridden 10 minutes of my day, I'm going to have a beer. That's better. Right. Okay. I'm ready now. I'm more calm. I've had a sip of beer. We need to get this stream done by 5 p.m. as well because the England game starts at 5. And so without any more waffling, let's bring in Jen Long O'Hare. Hello, Jen.
Hello, Toby.
I can hear you.
Yeah, good. Okay, this is good. I mean, sorry, because you have to put up with me. It might have been nicer if it was just silent and you didn't have to actually listen to anything I had to say. But great. I'm so glad that you can actually hear me. Toby, oh my God, like in that past 10 minutes where you were like, I can't hear. And then I was just on my own. I was talking about shoes.
I can't wait to clip that up and
oh my God. Oh no, you have it.
yeah. Everything that ever goes live is automatically recorded. So I can't wait to watch that. In fact, you know what? I'm going to sacrifice the start of the England game just so I can listen to that.
No, well, it was definitely what would you call it? Probably an own goal.
Oh, look at that. The football references. Way, lads, yeah, England.
Honestly, like, thank God, right?
Yeah, cheers. Here's to a happy end of Thursday.
Yeah, cheers.
So, Jen, welcome to Freeformers and Friends. Thank you for joining me for what is the most chaotic one, because obviously I got stuck in traffic on the way back as well. So I was actually ringing Jen at 10 to 4 going, I'm on my way. I'm going to be back on time. Everything's going to be fine. And lo and behold, I was on time and the tech absolutely failed us. So thank you for being with us.
Destiny to be late, mate. Destiny.
I'm going to start by asking the question I ask everybody who joins Freeformers and Friends. Why are we friends?
Oh God, I don't know.
Yeah, I actually dreaded you asking this question. I was like, is this a question to ask? Why do we know each other still? Is probably a better.
Really struggling, honestly. No, we're friends because you're awesome and I'm awesome, and two awesome people who meet each other should stay friends. I think, in a nutshell. Obviously, we worked together at Solve together. I was contracting there for about a year. You'd already been working there for a while. We obviously just hit it off. And yeah, I'm fiddling with my shoe now. Put it down.
That's all right. You can bring shoes. Tell us about. I missed about the shoe. I want to hear about this shoe.
It'll distract. They are nice. They're very nice, but it will be very distracting.
What brand are they?
Faith. I don't even know if it's still going.
Like the old school 90s shop.
Yeah, well, they are quite 90s, though.
Are they?
Yeah. Do you not think, with all the glitter and the bright neons?
There is someone, I was speaking to someone, an incredibly famous LinkedIn person, incredibly lovely person as well, Michelle Hartley. If you don't follow her, Jen, you definitely should, because we were talking about fashion, and I think she would absolutely vibe off your shoes, for sure.
Nice.
In fact, I think you could just have a whole talk about wardrobe, because I mean...
As she should. They are great shoes.
Well, Michelle and mine's talk was our meeting. We did spend the first 10 minutes talking about fashion, which... As you know, Jen, I'm highly fashionable.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I'm sure you had lots to teach her. But going back to why we're friends, it's because you can take a joke, which is a wonderful thing. No, working together, obviously loved working with you, Toby, and I've always just we've hit it off. We've got the same sense of humour. And I think the main point that I haven't mentioned and probably should have mentioned first is that we both love the US office.
Yes.
So, when you meet another person who loves the office and they get your references, you're immediately like, right, we're going to vibe. And if you don't get it, it's quite horrific. If someone doesn't understand it, you're just kind of like, oh, I just said something really inappropriate to that person. They don't understand why I said, and it's a bit like cats and dogs at that point, isn't it? Totally. Yeah. So same question to you, Toby.
See, I can't do the humorous reaction that you did. Like, why? I think for everything that you said, that's a real cop-out answer, isn't it? Oh yeah, copy paste what you said. Why are we friends? I think it's this. I think the sense of. I think this is quite a big thing in most walks of life, work or otherwise. a sense of humor and a common
Mhm.
sense of humor, that people bond over that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Humor, trauma.
Yes. Trauma bonding is a thing, and it is a powerful, powerful thing, especially when you use humor as your coping mechanism to survive the trauma bonding. You get this
Yeah,
weird sort of like very dark space that everyone has been in, you know. I've certainly shared some of my traumas with you over time.
yeah,
You've been a very
definitely.
patient ear, to be fair. So, and I think
Um,
from a work perspective, I think we both want the same thing. Not necessarily like I know you have your mission of changing the world of HR and stuff. I'm way more cynical than that. I think everyone knows me knows I'm very cynical, but what I do want is for people to be happy. And I think if going to work and working somewhere makes someone happy, then that's a good thing. So let's work towards that.
yeah.
Um, so we are
Um,
similarly goal oriented, if not.
Well, and certainly when like we first started out, we did a lot of talking about what the world of work needs, what it doesn't need,
Yeah.
and a lot of what it doesn't need needs lots of less of this. But I think that's the other thing, is that um driven by like a proactive approach to like, well, let's just make shit better. Let's
Mm,
not let's not double down on the misery and the chaos
yeah.
that kind of ensues. Is like, we can sit here and complain about it all we want, but let's try and be proactive and fix the world of work and how
Yeah,
we go about doing
totally.
that.
And I think it's really important to have like a bitch sesh as well, where it is kind of like, right, let's just have 10 minutes to just like rant, swear, say whatever we want, have a cry, whatever we need to do, uh, get it all out of our system because that's really important. And then actually use that to go, okay, well, how do we solve these problems? How do we fix these things? How do we think about it in a bit of a different way where we're not just thinking about what's always just been done before, right? Like,
Yeah,
and I've certainly been very lucky in my career that I've met a handful of people who have definitely led the way and challenged me to think really differently about stuff like that. I always remember this fantastic woman I met, Erin Lanciani. She's senior VP of HR and people in a very amazing company over in the US, who are looking to cure different like neurological diseases and stuff. She's just an absolute inspiration. But I did some work with her a while back, and I remember her telling me that they don't have an employee handbook. And I think that was probably one of the first moments for me, like a slight penny drop moment where I was just like, huh? What do you mean? I've written so many of them. Why don't you have an employee handbook? And she was like, nobody reads them. Why would I have it? We have policies and I share them when it's appropriate, but no story's the same, no experience is the same. We can't use the same judgment calls and benchmarks and standards on every single. We don't have one.
yeah.
And I was just like, right, yeah,
But
that
that's like a base
makes
level
sense.
of
That makes so much sense. Yeah. So, and it just teaches you though, like question things, like be curious about things. We don't have to have one.
yeah,
And her people were so. I shouldn't say her people. Her company's people were so happy. Such good well-being scores, such good performance scores whenever they were asking. And I just thought, wow, like that's somebody doing something in a way that nobody would agree with. I think, and it works. Why
well,
not?
and yeah, and that's, I suppose, especially when you think about HR and all those kind of things that feel like they are quite litigious. Like there may
Mm,
be, like obviously there is a networking event that I've spoken at a lot called Disrupt HR.
mm,
It's like almost the last thing you want to do is disrupt like the legal part
right.
of how you look after people. So by its very nature, it kind of is a little bit of in conflict with it. So
Mm.
to disrupt and change might feel like the wrong thing to do.
But to have the confidence in your own approach as well, to know like actually everything we do is fair. It's by the book, it's by the law. We don't need an employee handbook in this instance because we will tackle this case fairly, equitably, by the law. Like you don't need something that no one's going to read. It's outdated based on old shit that nobody cares about. Like, and let's face it, any employee handbook I've ever been given has ended up gathering dust under my bed, and my cat's probably pissed on it at some point. Like nobody reads them. So why waste people's time? Why waste people's energy? Like let's focus on giving people resources that they can use and proactively help them in their situations, which I know is what you at Freeformers is all about as well. Well, I shouldn't say you at Freeformers, I should say we, because I'm part of the team. I'm
Yeah,
trying
you're an associate here at
to
Freeform. You are part of the
I'm
part
that
of the.
long lost cousin that you try not to invite to parties because you know I'll get drunk and embarrass the rest of the family.
I was going to say you're part of the family. You're part of the Freeformers family, but we know that kind of gives everybody a little bit of an ick. Although it's kind of weird. So we did some videos for an employer about how amazing, and they do genuinely treat their people amazing. And one of the employees said it. One of the employees said it is like working from home, and that's where it feels okay, right? If your employees say it, then it probably is.
Yeah.
But if you're a leader saying it, kind of like, this seems a little bit disingenuous because it's not really on you to make that determination about what your culture is. It is your people.
Absolutely. And again, to go back to this wonderful lady that I spent a lot of time with, Erin, she, in every interview I did with her, in every ghost article I worked with her on, she'd say, work isn't family. Family is family. Work is work. Work can feel like family, but work is not family. And that was it. And she just knew just so naturally, because she had a good understanding of people, and she spoke to people and listened to people and heard what they said, and that allowed her to get this really innate understanding of course work isn't family. Like we can't choose family. We do get to choose where we work, actually. We're stuck with family most of the time. So that's quite a big difference, first of all. Yeah.
This is true. This is true. And going back to employee handbooks, I remember a company I worked for not so long ago. The employee handbook was actually from a travel company. I remember that. I remember reading in the employee handbook that it's said, as working for a travel agency, you'll do this. So there's this balance between, do you need it, and how much attention do you pay to doing it, to then actually not paying much attention to it all. And it's actually, it kind of devalues the employee experience of the employer brand of what it does, because it's like, you didn't really care about it.
You started a company like that and you're just like, what the fuck? Like, my contract hasn't got my salary in it.
Yeah.
There's just a blank. What does this mean? And I've done it. I've worked in companies where, like, we've been bought out by somebody else. First day, get their name tag, my name spelled wrong. It's not hard. It's not hard. Just, and it's handwritten. Like, you had it in front of you. You copied it. You just, basic copying skills eluded you on that moment. And yeah, it made me feel like shit. It made, and again, like, we've all been there. We've all been through those horrible moments where we're just like, you know what, this company has all the paperwork, but they haven't paid any attention to it because they're not paying any attention to me.
Yeah.
That's a shitty feeling to give anybody.
I'm doing some typing as you're talking, and I don't want to be incredibly rude, but apparently we're actually not live on LinkedIn. We're live on every other channel. We're live on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, but we're not actually live on LinkedIn. So I'm just posting the link to the Twitter feed, because for some reason technology is absolutely failing us today. What I will do is, because we can actually just rerun this. I'm going to rerun this tomorrow, because I never can watch it in the morning whilst we're drinking and think we're drinking at 9 o'clock on a Friday morning. That'd be quite fun.
Accurate.
Because this is why I like you, because there's no holds barred conversation with Jen. Like, you get your unfiltered opinion. Because I have it on good authority. You don't like being led by white middle class men. Can you tell me more about that, please?
I knew that was coming.
Did you? I was like, am I going to bring this up? It's on record as you saying that. What does that mean? Like, for someone to say that about you, what do you think that says? What does that say about you? What does that say about the world of work? Because
I don't believe that this was said to me. I've had it on good authority that it was said about me when I raised some specific issues in the workplace. Do you know what? I don't even remember what they were. It's always with me raising something, I can tell you that much. But but like, I'll always raise something on behalf of someone if they're maybe frightened to speak up or they've got an issue. Like, I'm really comfortable with raising things with people, try and be respectful to people. And I think whatever I raised, obviously. Oh no, I remember, Toby. It was when I was offered a job somewhere. And I said no, because the money wasn't good enough compared to what I was earning as a contractor, which isn't gazillions, of course it's not, but it was definitely nowhere near what I was going to earn. Yeah. I would have been tethering myself to 4 or 5 weeks of holiday a year, when as a contractor you can just fuck off whenever you like, as long as your work's done and it's done to good quality, which is what I'm all about. And I think the salary I was asking for would have put me at like director level or something, and they deemed that I wasn't at director level, which is absolutely fine. That's their call to make. But probably true. I wouldn't let me direct. I mean, I struggle to direct my small child in the morning to get him to school, so I wouldn't let me direct companies. That's fine. But I said no respectfully. I think I'm just going to carry on freelancing and we can have a good contractor relationship. And I believe the comment was made about me that was she just doesn't like being led by middle-aged white men. I can assure whoever that was who made that comment that it was if it was a senior black woman or a very young someone who identifies as anything person, I would have a problem. I still would have said no because the
Yeah.
salary wasn't right and the offer wasn't right. So um, I'm not going to name any names, but I think perhaps that comes across because I will speak my mind and I'm maybe northern. I think the northernness sometimes has a little bit to do with it. Like I think people maybe think I'm quite brash or whatever. Probably am. I'm a bit of a straight shooter, but personally, I think it's a good thing to be straight shooting in the world of creative because you get lots of good work, you get lots of honest opinions, and that's what makes good work happen, even if it's a little bit uncomfortable sometimes. But I guess that person just didn't like the fact that I was honest or hard to control or hard to, I don't know.
Well, there's a couple of things to unpick there. So I think there is a balance in the relationship between employee and employer, right? And this
Mhm.
is again mutual lifetime value. Everything that you've helped us kind of create with that kind of framework is to make sure that it's a mutually beneficial relationship between employee and employer. And some employers obviously don't see it that way, and that's fine. You can run your company that way. I'm not going to dictate that it's a ubiquitous thing that everyone should use, but there has to be there should be a balance
Yeah,
between.
yeah.
There should be those, everyone has to be, everyone has to benefit from this relationship. If they
Mm.
don't, that relationship not happening should also be okay and not be judged, much like you'd have a relationship with a person outside of work. It's like,
Right.
if both people aren't getting something out of this relationship, then it ain't worth having, right?
You don't have to stay. Yeah, like you don't. And I think
Exactly.
in the workplace, I think especially when did I start contracting? Like 2001. I think I'm going into my fourth year now, and the sense of freedom that comes with being able to walk off a contract that's not right for you is just absolutely unparalleled. Even if it leaves you in the shit for 3 months and you've got no money, you're like, this is great because you're not doing work that you are forced into a corner to do. You're not staying with a company that you're forced to do. And I think obviously traditionally most people who are PAYE, they are working solely for one company. They have a boss that they have to please. They have deadlines that they have to meet. They have specific behavior that they have to carry out. And I think the bosses get used to that as well.
Yeah.
And I think it's really hard to preach the sort of relationship that we talk about that has to be mutually beneficial when actually in most workplaces the power balance isn't mutually beneficial at all.
Yeah.
Most employees have to fucking do what they're told. Even if it's done in a nice way, they have to toe the line. They have to do what they're told. Otherwise, they're out of line. They don't meet the team dynamic, blah, blah, blah. They end up out. Whereas as a contractor, it's different because you can pick and choose who you want to work with, when you want to work with them, and why you want to work with them, and what you want to do. And you can say no. So I think when people are challenged with that sort of thing, where someone's not groveling for the job and they're not desperate for the job, and they go, actually, I'm all right. We can freelance together. That's absolutely fine. But
Yeah.
I'm not going to be your employee. I think that's probably really hard for people to take on board and actually deal with. And so you end up with comments like that with like, oh, she just doesn't like listening to fellas.
Yeah.
Okay, actually that's not fair and that's not true. I mean, I don't if they're talking shit, but who
But you
does?
wouldn't take it if anybody was talking shit, right? Like
Right,
it's
and neither would a bloke. Like you wouldn't like listening to fellas talking shit either, but like it's just a reactive thing, I think, because you've suddenly got someone who's a little bit out of your control,
yeah.
not just in terms of perhaps their personality, but in terms of like the employment relationship. And so that going back to what you were talking about, that balance, I think is really hard to achieve. And I think there are good people in the world of work who are working with lots of PAY employees who are um, trying to do the best for them and trying to give them that balance and that sense of like everything is equal. But personally, I think it's a long way away, a long way away.
I got again. You keep like it's a little box you open up and there's more questions in that box.
Sorry.
No, it's really cool. Because now I've forgotten the original question that was going to follow up because I said there was two questions earlier. That one's flown away. Don't know where that's going to
All
come
right. It'll come back if it's important.
back.
No,
So well, I'm gonna ask you both questions now because I think they're kind of related. So, um, I believe that the world you've described as a freelancer or an associate or whatever, right, is where the values of that and what you get out of that relationship and how is a generational thing that actually emerging generations of the workforce would be more amenable to that kind of relationship.
Mm.
So that's kind of that's more of an observation. Younger generations, do you think they're more amenable to kind of more of a freelance relationship because it allows them to control that relationship?
Mm.
And then the second point is that, do you think just as a society we're moving away from that'll be the normal thing? So normal thing at the moment, the status quo is employment. That's the status quo. Do you think
Yeah.
we'll get to a place where the status quo is everyone's a freelancer? Which is pretty, like, I don't know how the economy of that would work. And then when you get to that space, or do you think it's possible? It's layering on more and more questions.
Just 3 questions. I never agreed to 3.
Layering on, do you think employers are able to create that kind of relationship without someone ever being a freelancer? There you go.
Let me just write that. I'm scribbling because you asked me 3 questions, and I
Sorry.
the power balance in this conversation is more appropriate. So first of all, you asked me about whether you think being a freelancer or a contractor would be more amenable to the younger generation. I think in part, yes, possibly because the younger generation are obviously, these big issues that we're talking about, where younger generations aren't thinking about buying a house, aren't thinking about pensions, aren't thinking about retirement. They don't look forward in the way that we were taught to when we were younger. I'm 37. So like that generation of ours was definitely all about, think about having 1 or 2 really steady jobs where you can have a really good pension. You can earn, even a final salary pension. That would be fantastic. And in the meantime, you can have 4 weeks off every year where you can go on a holiday to Europe, and it's very affordable, and you can afford your own house once you get married, and you have your children. And it was very
Because of course you're getting married, and of course you're having children.
Of course, and of course you want to afford your own house, and you want to go away in Europe. But these were the things that we were, especially like I come from a very, very like working class, slightly sub-working class background, where these were the things my parents wanted for me because they represented stability. They don't represent stability anymore. There is no stability anymore for these young ones coming into work now. They're more about like, well, I want to live in the moment because the future is very uncertain. So I want to make sure the moment is as good as possible, and the short term is very good, which I personally, I'm a big advocate of that sort of way of thinking, because you don't know what's coming around the corner. I think they are looking for a lot more job satisfaction in terms of respect, in terms of how they're treated as human beings, in terms of the company's policies on like CSR, how the company's interacting with its customers, with the environment, with like, just they want to work for, I think, especially with the internet and like reviews and the widespread nature of information, I think there's no burying anything under the fucking patio anymore. And the kids nowadays, they want to work for someone who's good, and that aligns with their moral compass. So in part, I think that does match the freelancer thing, because freelancing gives you the opportunity to choose companies that align with your personal values, say no to companies that don't align with your personal values or things that you don't believe in, right? But on the flip side, which kind of moves on to your next question, I think it takes a lot of learning and a lot of self-confidence to be a good freelancer. I think you have got to have worked through some shit in your life to get to a point where you feel confident enough to say no to a rate that's too low, or no to a job where you don't feel comfortable with. What I've been asked to write all sorts of crazy programs, all sorts of strange bits and pieces over my time, where I've had to put my hand up and say, I really feel uncomfortable writing this. And that is a level of confidence that I think maybe comes with age, but also I think probably has come through being trampled on a little bit in my earlier years. And I think a 21 or 22-year-old going into a freelance gig would have to be really self-assured and very out there in terms of confidence. Personally, I probably wouldn't recommend it for anyone under like 27, 28. So I think it's maybe less of because I think like attitude wise, I think it's matches really well. But experience wise, I think perhaps you just need to gather that a little bit more, so you've got that self-confidence that comes with it. That said, I do think we're moving more towards a gig society. I think it's fantastic. I love the idea that people can specialize in certain skills and make great money giving those skills to other people, and doing great self-satisfaction in what you do, being able to deliver amazing work, being able to be part of a team. I always say, like, what I do, I feel a bit like the SAS. Like, I parachute in, I do something really cool, and then I parachute back out again. Now, you don't necessarily get to see the end result there, or be part of the 8-year strong team or whatever, but it's really rewarding in its own way. So I think in terms of, like, are we moving more towards that? I don't know if we are, but I'd love to see it, because I think it's definitely a really healthy way of working. Obviously, I think some roles, like working in a shop, like or working as a doctor, I think, like, you need to be physically there with a patient or physically there with a customer. You can't really do that as a gig thing. That's fine. But I do think there's lots of room to maneuver on lots of roles that are out there, particularly administrative, when you're at a computer, when you're at a machine. How can we move to remote? How can we move to flexible? How can we move to someone contracting that role out? It's me and my husband talk about this a lot, because his industry doesn't really suit the contractor role. And I'm like, well, you're so smart. You could definitely be a contractor, but there's no room for it in the industry yet. Mark my words. So that kind of answers that one. And I'm just going to interrupt you before you interrupt me on the third question that you interrupted me with.
No, that's why I realized you just said second question. I was about to say something. I was like, no, there's a third answer here. So,
well, it's fine. I mean, yeah, I'm just rounding off, like, can employers learn to support that sort of society? I'd like to think so. I'd like to think that everyone is smart enough to be adaptable, and we went through COVID and everything changed, and everyone adapted to that really well. I think lots of companies really embraced it. Unfortunately, some have gone backwards a little bit in terms of hybrid working and employee trust and things like that, dragging people into the office because they've got lots of agreements with lots of other rich people to pay them lots of money for their buildings. But I think particularly open-minded employers who ask their people what they want are definitely going to find themselves, hopefully, moving towards more, like, even if it's not necessarily a contractual relationship, like the one I've got, like, as a freelancer with obviously many clients, is just kind of like people having specialisms that they are really, really fucking shit hot at, and then, like, working with them specifically on those lines to, I don't know, it just feels really a lot more rewarding. But then I guess I'm putting my boss head on and thinking, well, when you've got a team of people, how are you going to upskill them? How are you going to make sure that other people get exposed to different types of work? How are you going to cross skill along amongst your team? But then they're the questions that we'd need to ask, right? Like, that's good. It's good to ask those questions, because once you ask the question, then you can find a way.
yeah.
So I think it's possible. But again, I think that's probably, it's not quite a Sisyphean road, but it's definitely, like, a difficult road to walk.
Because my guest next week, I had a call with him last week, and is like saying, this is where the world's going. The world's going completely, everyone will just work for themselves, everyone will be fractional, all this kind of stuff. And you're like, okay, interesting. And we'll talk more about that next week. But as you're in that world, it felt pertinent to ask that question about what your viewpoint is.
It's hard. Like, it's hard to work. God, Toby, I can remember like, when I first took the plunge, went freelance, and I can remember lying on my bed 3 weeks in, lying on the bed, staring up at the ceiling, crying my eyes out. Can't even imagine it. Crying my eyes out, going, I'm never going to get any work. Like, it's really hard. It's hard mentally. You have to put the graft in. It's hard in a different way. But I find the difficulties that being a contractor presents are, I feel like I can solve them a lot more than the difficulties that being a full-time employee at a company present. Because a lot of the time, and I'm sure you'd agree with this, you feel like your hands are tied and you can't do anything, even though, like, you might see things that, like, morally you're like, that's not okay. Process wise, that's not right. We're wasting money. We're wasting time. Like, how can we change this? And then talking about Sisyphean, like, you do feel like you're pushing a boulder up the hill at that point.
Yeah.
So
the thing that kind of went off in my mind when you were talking about that is gig economy. Gig economy and Uber. So let's say, for one of Uber invented the gig economy, let's say, but they didn't, but you know what I mean. But they managed to monetize the gig economy to the point where they're almost actually now just an employer anyway.
Yeah.
So, like, in your world, as a fantastic, incredible copywriter, if someone created, like, the Uber of copywriting, do you think you'd be giving up some of the beauty of a freelancer and almost handing it over to Uber, like copywriting Uber app, which they shouldn't call it, by the way, because that's a rubbish name.
Copywriting Uber app.
Yeah.
Yeah, we probably shouldn't call it that. Do I don't know, because I mean, like, I'm trying to think about how much of my work is sourced independently as opposed to through, like, specialist, like, freelance recruitment agencies. Probably like 60-40 to the agencies, maybe. And they obviously take a chunk, and but then you're kind of left to do your own thing. So there is definitely, like, I think one of the great things about freelancing is the freedom to work when you want, where you want, how you want. In fact, I walked off a job recently because I felt this is really bad. I felt like I was being watched constantly for she better be working 9 to 5. And I don't work 9 to 5 because I have a life around 9 to 5 that I have to run. Like, sometimes I'll go and get my nails done, or sometimes I got to pick my child up from school. So I don't always work 9 to 5. And I felt very much that there was a bit of a weird kind of watching me and checking in on me. And I was like, I'm not an employee. You can't do this to me. And it one of many reasons, actually. I also felt the job wasn't right for me. But I ended up walking away from it. And I would say that is definitely the right choice looking back. But that is a freedom that I think you wouldn't get if you signed up to something like that. If you would,
because you'd get a rating, right? Essentially, because what Uber do, you get a rating. So
of course I'm worried. Like, of course I'm worried. Like, I'm like, I really don't want that to damage my reputation in the industry and with the recruiter and blah blah blah. But then I suppose I don't know. That is a really tough question, because you're always building a rating, even independently anyway. You're always looking for people to endorse you. You're always looking for testimony. How many testimony pictures have I sent you? And I've been like, Toby, I've designed these really shitly. Can you please fix them for me? Because they look awful. But the words are really, really good, because people obviously are happy to endorse me. But
can I just add at this point in the live stream, you have loads. When you sent them through to me, he's like, "Oh, can you make my testimonial, like, quotes into graphics?" I was like, yeah, fine. And then you sent me like 100 quotes, which are all absolutely spectacular, by the way. Like,
because I get them all the time, because I ask people. I ask people, but also they send them. They'll just WhatsApp me or whatever and be like, Jen, this is fucking great. Like, so, and obviously then I'm like, right, that's going in my reel. That's going in my pile, because there might be a time when I need to. So, okay, you contract into copyright and Uber and they find you work and you don't have to worry about it. And okay, they're a bit flexible. But, like, I don't know.
I wasn't expecting you to come up with necessarily the answer, but
it's a really tough one, because, and it is hard sometimes when you're out of work and stuff to be finding stuff. Toby, I have to tell you, there's someone lurking behind my camera.
What?
There's someone lurking.
This is the first double guester fiesta. Hello.
Do you know there's a football match about to start?
What, in like, oh, we got 6. Is this the hurry up that we got to start the card game now? Otherwise, we're going to rapidly run out of time.
See, Alison Beth is more facilitator than me, and she watches her timings. You see,
from YouTube fame, YouTube fame,
Quizzle fame. Hey,
yeah,
you're getting double pixie bang for your buck here.
I know. I love how the fringes go opposite ways, so when you're next to each other, they both swoop away from you. It's very cool. Okay, so we are gonna play this game as 3 people.
I can go if I'm.
No. We're gonna no. I was just trying to carefully use my language correctly.
You didn't want to say threesome.
It's
got sexual connotations.
Yeah. And this stream is strictly PG. Whilst we're drinking 18 plus drinks, it's a strictly PG. It's a family show. Okay, so we've got 2 flavors of deck of cards. We've got the HR edition and we've got the business leaders edition.
These are very cool, by the way, Toby. I love this. I love anything that gets people talking. This is a fucking great idea. Well done.
Oh, thank you very much. Do you want to know where this idea came from?
Do not say Atomic Habits by James Clear, because I will kill myself.
I do not need to hear about that book ever again in my life. I was Beth went out for the day. I was looking after the kids by myself, and I was like, I was going insane. I was like, I need something to take my mind off this. So I wrote these in a day whilst looking after 2 children. That was
Tasty.
crazy.
Well,
I think it's a nice little plug that if you want to buy the cards, if you can scan that QR code, you can actually buy these cards. We've now got an online shop.
Yes.
Madness. Okay, quick before the English absolutely walk all over the Danes. Business Leaders Edition or Human Resources Edition?
Business leaders.
Everyone always goes for Business Leaders Edition.
Oh,
No one ever.
human resources.
Jen
then.
Wow.
deems herself a business leader. You see.
Yeah, right. As from the previous 46 minutes of conversation, as you can tell, I deem myself a business leader.
Do you own a business?
Yeah,
And who is in charge of that business?
me.
You're a business leader. Good stuff. But we're using the human resources version because no one's picked it yet. So
Hey, last one.
I'm going to pass this on to Ali. Ali, when I'm going to flick through the deck and you've got to say stop. When you say stop, I will stop.
Stop.
Okay. And your card is, what if our employer brand tasks were run by our marketing team?
Oh, beautiful. Well, I've got a specialism in employer brand, haven't I? So there we go.
Yeah, great. So if anybody needs any employer brand work doing, bam, talk to Jen.
I mean, there's lots of cross-transferable stuff between marketing and employer brand. Obviously, you're looking at an end user and you're trying to alter or change or manipulate their behavior in some way, right? It's the same as selling a bottle of Coke to someone. You have to think about, do you want them to buy it? Why are they going to buy it? Audience profile, segmentation, all those things. Same with employer branding. I guess the specialty with employer branding is obviously having that understanding of careers and what people want to do with their careers. So it's just like, I always say, like, employer branding and product branding should probably sit on the opposite sides of the same coin, right? So one's the heads and one's the thing that's on the other side that no one really knows what it is. So I wouldn't necessarily have a problem with a marketing team doing it, but I would expect them to be very, very closely linked to HR because they've got the understanding of careers and of people and of the people specifically in the business. That said, I'm a product and a brand and a people brand person. Like, you can flip between the two. And in fact, do you know what's the beautiful sweet spot? I've only ever done this once with a company once. When you get an employer brand and a product brand that are the same.
Oh, that's the dream.
It's sexual. It's sexual. No, it's not. It's
Well, like
a spreadsheet. Like a spreadsheet, as people say. It's so sexy. It's not.
Or an e-learning module.
Oh, you remember that sexy e-learning module that we did about 2 years ago? Wow, it was great. What all the awards?
Wow, it was so sexy. Yeah, so I don't necessarily have a problem with that, but I think it has to be done in a really carefully managed way and definitely in conjunction with the people team. Lots of research, lots of asking what people want, and also going outside the company as well and asking what potential candidates want to be getting from the company too.
Nice. Ali, thoughts?
Well, I thought that my absolute contribution to that was from a facilitator point of view, that I asked you to pause the deck at the exact point that was a perfect question for Jennifer. So that's my contribution to the conversation.
That's why you two work so well together. That, like, you
that's what I was thinking, absolutely. Jen's got all the ideas. I just help deliver them in a way that is, seamless on a virtual conversation. So there we go. This is why things work well.
I love it. Well, technical issues aside, football aside, drinking aside, third wheel arriving aside, we have actually managed to get through this live stream relatively unscathed. Apologies that we didn't actually end up going live on LinkedIn, but the X link has been on LinkedIn. It's like you both have the same brain. It's just weird.
Awful. Awful. Just one half of each. Yeah.
We'll post the recorded version of this because I think it's too fun not to let LinkedIn see it. Well, there's some boring folk on LinkedIn, so they won't care.
Oh God, they won't like it at all. They'll be posting about the England game shortly and telling us what it taught them about marketing.
What Gareth Southgate can teach us about leadership within our organisations. Why your team needs a Jude Bellingham in your squad?
Everyone needs a Jude Bellingham.
Someone's going to get injured. Someone will get injured, and it'll be like, let's talk about my injury in HR.
I don't mind though, a bit of chat about Jude Bellingham, who is from the Midlands. Gareth Southgate, who used to play for Aston Villa, representing the Midlands, which is often forgotten in the North-South divide.
You're just Grealish.
I'm just happy to be here, to be honest.
Ali, are you from the Midlands by any chance?
Yeah, absolute ambassador for the Midlands.
Oh God, here she goes.
Let's just talk about all the good young Norwich players that are in the England squad. No, there we go. We're out of time. So
Are there any Scouse ones?
there's Pickford. Pickford's Everton. He's in goal. Not Pickford. Yes, Pickford. Jordan Pickford plays for Everton, doesn't he?
Yeah, well, he plays for Everton. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there we go. Great football partner to kick us off into the second game of the Euros. Way, Vindaloo. So this.
Can I just say this is a vast improvement to earlier when Toby's sound wasn't working. So for 5 minutes, I just talked about these shoes.
Oh, I wondered why they were on the desk. Makes sense.
This is a vast improved, infinitely improved.
Jen always has a pair of just one shoe on her desk at any moment for break a case of emergency.
No, I didn't link them to anything. I was just talking about shoes.
Nice.
What Jude Bellingham can teach us about rainbow-coloured high heels.
I'd love to see them play in them. Just one game, charity game in these. Let's do it.
We talk the best high heel scene in cinema is Bryce Dallas Howard running away from a T-Rex in high heels in Jurassic World.
Yes,
It's incredible.
Correct.
Not only is she outrunning a T-Rex, which is an animal that's been extinct for ages and much probably faster than a human, she's doing it in heels as well, and carrying a flare.
Good on her.
Yeah, great scene because she still looks kind of like cargo-y, like a little bit combat-y, but she's got a pair of heels. It's very good.
It's very good, and in slow motion, everything. Anyway, Ali, I got a question for you. Are you going to come and join us on Freeformers and Friends?
If you'll have me, Toby. If you'll have me,
Of course, we are going to get that booked in. So, and we will have Jen back to do a full proper hour when England aren't about to play a match. Jen, will you come back?
I will, but people won't want me to.
I think drinking, swearing, and being slightly spicy with some of your thought leadership is exactly what the world needs.
Thought leadership,
self-deprecation. They'll want you back.
Oh,
woe is me. No, I love you.
No, not again.
Right.
By the way,
let's go. Let's go watch the football. I'll speak to you both very soon. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thanks, Toby.
Bye. Bye. I think that has got to be one of the absolute most mental streams I have done ever. Full of chaos with technology, full of chaos with additional people, just lots of chaos. As I said before, the deck of cards that we just played is available to buy here. We've actually had people buy them, which is surprising. I wasn't expecting to sell any, which is lovely. So if you want to play a game of What If, conversation starters for forward-thinking HR teams, then head over to the link via the QR code. It just remains for me to say thank you to Ali, thank you to Jen. It's been an absolute pleasure. Both of them will be on Freeformers and Friends again very soon. And for those people on LinkedIn, this is a playback. What do they call it? Catch up. Watch it on catch up on LinkedIn because that's what we all want to do with our Thursday evenings. Well, with that, I will leave you to